Hi everybody, I'm Phil Fatika and welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. Well, a topic today that's on the lips of everybody. Things are going to change on the Bayfront thanks to two people sitting next to me. The person in the middle is the Erie County Executive, Mrs. Kathy Dahlkemper, and to your left is Rich Eisenberg. Rich is the Executive Director of the Bayfront Maritime Center and the founder, I might add, one of the founders.
Correct.
Okay. Things are changing because of the marine sanctuary which has been proposed. I think you've heard about this. There's been public meetings. Here's a chance to expand the conversation. Mrs. Dahlkemper, you have 2 days.
Wonderful. There's a lot to talk about.
There sure is.
There's a lot to talk about. You know, I was really not familiar with national marine sanctuaries until a little over a year ago. And I found out through a representative from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that for the first time in 20 years, the opportunity was there for areas to put an application in to be looked at for acceptance as a national marine sanctuary.
Why such a delay? 20 years? I mean, that's a generation.
Well, yes, it is a long time, but 20 years ago, NOAA decided they had all the work they could handle with the 14 marine sanctuaries that they had already designated, many of them new. So they decided to pull back and use that time to really make sure that those marine sanctuaries had the resources they needed. But now 20 years later, they think there's more important areas in our waters, either the oceans or the Great Lakes, that should be looked at in terms of their historical significance, their protected species, or their natural beauty, coral reef, for example.
A lot of people have hopped on board with this, including Rich. You're from the Bayfront Maritime Center. Your play in this is, and has been this, you've been on board with this before this has become this public. How so?
The Bayfront Maritime Center started in 1998, and we've done written some grants and done some work in this area to look for shipwrecks and identify shipwrecks with a bunch of our community partners and collaborators.
How many shipwrecks? Lots, right?
Apparently there's around 600 in Lake Erie and 200 in the Pennsylvania waters.
Yeah, that's an extremely large amount of ships down there. And I know people go out and dive now. So the presence of the Marine Sanctuary is going to do what?
So the Marine Sanctuary is really about protecting our cultural heritage, protecting the historical history that is these ships. Why are we even located here in Erie, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, right.
A lot of people forget that it really is the maritime waters that brought us here. We can talk about some of the infamous battles that happened in Lake Erie, but we can talk about something else. I think a lot of people don't realize that in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, we were the #1 freshwater fishing industry in the world, right here off of the shores of Pennsylvania. And then you look at all the commerce that happened, particularly before rail and before our highway system, on the waters of the Great Lakes. And over those years, many of those ships, for various reasons, sunk. So there is a history to be told from those wrecks that sit in the waters off of our coast right here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I had an uncle through marriage that ran a fishing business with the nets and the perch, and I remember going, and you know, it was just unlimited the number of fish that you could bring in. But I remember the stories he would tell about they knew what was down there, and I think they were looking at the time to find maybe a time and a place where they could get down there and explore. I have to ask you an obvious question. Either of you dive?
Yeah, I'm a certified diver.
You are?
Yeah, now he's a certified diver.
I am not.
I think you'd want to be.
I am a wannabe diver.
Yeah,
My husband is, and actually I've said if we're going forward with this sanctuary designation, which I hope happens, I've got to go in the pool, get my diving certificate, get out there and get my dive, what do they call it? You dive in the water and get down there and see what those wrecks look like. But we know that most people won't be divers, and I think that's important to mention.
Right.
That, you know, yeah, the divers are going to love this; they love it now. But what it's about is bringing what's down there in those wrecks back onto the shore and bringing that history alive for those who will never dive. And there are students from all ages, from our youngest children all the way up to our oldest adults, that we can all learn from these shipwrecks. And And they really are part of what makes us a very important historical place.
Makes us, yeah. Rich, have you have you gone down and explored any of these?
I have not dove wrecks in Lake Erie.
Okay.
The other important thing is diving is such a great introduction to science and technology.
Yes.
And math.
My next question.
Boyle's Law and Charles' Law and it's life support. So it's real important for young people to learn this. And it's easy enough for a 12-year-old to be certified as a scuba person, and it's just a great hook to the sciences.
Yeah, the STEM, science,
Absolutely.
technology, engineering. By the way, you may have seen or may have received this in the mail from the Bayfront Maritime. It's their annual report, and this explains here the young people that are involved in the simple fact of sailing and actually building something and going out on it, and a sense of accomplishment that brings, that they actually built something that they can put on the water and said, I did that.
Right.
I did that. Tell us about that.
And teamwork and effective communication and problem solving and perseverance are some of the real important skills, but also navigation and rules of the road and a respect for our maritime heritage and our maritime culture here in Erie.
I think what's great about what Rich and his people do down at the Bayfront Maritime Center is they actually already are bringing that history alive and making it current. So it's about our past, it's about a history, but it's also about current, where we are and where we're going as a community, and that's why it's been great that Rich has been so supportive of this, and I think there's a great marriage here of not only his facility, but so many others who are doing great work in our waters off of Erie here, and that's why so many groups have come
You've
forward.
had a lot of supporters come forward and commit themselves. You can please name them.
Oh my gosh, well, we could start with elected officials. We had county council, city council, the boroughs association, and the Township association, and then the DCNR, who runs Presque Isle, the state agency, the Department of Environmental Protection, the Science Consortium, which is a consortium of, I think, 14 colleges and universities that's located at the Tom Ridge Center. Of course, the Bayfront Maritime Center, the museum, the flagship Niagara, those type of groups, the Visit Erie, the dive shops, many businesses, Don John Shipping. So there's just so many educational institutions. We could go on and on.
The Sons of Lake Erie.
And that's been always one of the biggest concerns when people hear the word sanctuary. I think it's almost misnamed because often they think then you can't touch it, you can't go in it, you can't use it. But actually I see the uses being enhanced. And so the Sons of Lake Erie, who are Save Our Native Species, a very large pro-fishing advocacy group, were one of our first supporters also, and I have been on board, as are the dive shops, and as I said, even the commercial uses of the water.
Let's go backwards a little bit. How did you come up on this? Let's take a little bit of a history as to how you got to at least this point, which this point being, well, we're going to apply to see if they'll accept us. It's kind of like going to college, You're kind of going to a school and saying, we think we have all the tools, here we are. So, but how'd you get there? The history. So,
as I said, about a year ago, we found out that this process was now opened up. And NOAA changed how they're going about this. 20 years ago, they used to come in and say, okay, this is an area that we want to put a marine sanctuary in, and so they would basically say, we're the federal government and we're here to help you. And that never usually goes over very well. So they have completely changed the process. Now it has to be community driven. The community has to basically say to NOAA, we know we have a great resource here. We'd like you to consider us for a sanctuary. So we found out about this process. In September of 2014, I had the opportunity to go to the only marine sanctuary in the Great Lakes, which is in Alpena, Michigan. It's called Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. It's located in Lake Huron. Alpena itself is about 11,000 people, and the county is maybe 30,000. Small community, about 4 hours north of Detroit, more than an hour away from any interstate highway. They had almost 100,000 visitors last year to their sanctuary. What this has done for their community, a community that had a paper mill that had closed, many industries that had left, really fairly decimated economically, this has come in, has given it new life, has given them an identity, and really has transformed the region. And when I saw what it could do there, and I thought about Erie County and how we sit right on I-90 with the 2 million or more cars that goes by every day, every year, and how we are close to Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Buffalo, so we sit in a population center, and then again, all the resources we already have here. I looked into this along with a team of people as, is this a good location? Would the NOAA be interested in us? And we've had many contacts with NOAA, and they do see this as a very viable region for a marine sanctuary. And again, this is around the shipwrecks, because marine sanctuaries have different designations. And a lot of people get concerned because they go on the website and they see that there's restrictions to fishing, there's restrictions to some activities in some marine sanctuaries. But when you look at the one that we would be most closely modeled upon, it's the one up in Lake Huron. And the only restrictions are around the wrecks, and that you cannot destroy a wreck, you cannot damage a wreck, you cannot take anything from the wrecks. There's no restrictions on fishing, there's no restrictions on diving, there's no restrictions of the commercial uses of the water.
I was at the lighthouse the other day taping a show, which will air in a couple of weeks. And you know, the lighthouse, they're taking it and opening it up to the public, and they're going to have an information center. And we were taping, we couldn't tape because people would come, can we come in and look at the lighthouse? Can we look at this? And it was wonderful because lighthouses are magnets. This is an iconic magnet that attracts people. And this is what I see happening with this designation. People know about this and will want to come and be there and see this. Now, when you want to describe how big is this going to be, is it going to be, let's use the tabletop here for our discussion. Is it going to be as big as your coffee cup here filled with water? Is it going to be this big? How big is the designation going to be?
The designation will be all of the waters of Pennsylvania. So it will go from the Ohio line to the New York line to the international border with Canada, and it will be those waters of Pennsylvania. We looked at, in the beginning, do we want to include what is considered the Lake Erie quadrangle, and that quadrangle is where most of the shipwrecks are in Lake Erie, and that does extend into those states, and it does extend all the way over to Canada. For simplicity purposes, because you have got to have the buy-in of your governor to even put an application in, we decided to stick with the Pennsylvania waters, knowing that in the future, the marine sanctuary could be expanded. NOAA has done that in the past. And NOAA is also very interested in our location because they think it could possibly be the first international cooperative sanctuary with Ontario, because truly there are some great wrecks in Canada's waters, as well as those two states that border us. So it's a large area, again, with, we're not even sure how many wrecks, but well over 100 in the Pennsylvania waters, maybe close to 200. And we don't know. We don't even know where a lot of them are, and we don't even know exactly what's down there. And that's the exciting thing.
Part. Yeah.
NOAA has great resources. NOAA has the bells and the whistles. You know, they are the federal government. This is basically comparable to having a national park. And so the resources of the federal government come in, whether it's the technology resources, whether it's their tourism resources, you know, the word gets out nationally and even internationally that there is a national marine sanctuary here off of Erie County, Pennsylvania, and people are drawn here, scientists, students, and visitors alike.
Rich, this goes back to what you were saying earlier, that this promotes the interest in all the things you were talking about, the physics of, the math of, the taking the responsibility for, the self-determination for, I want to do this, I want to be a marine biologist, I want to go to school and learn how to do this. This is fascinating, and we have it right literally here at our doorstep. So you got an hour, go ahead.
There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that already exist, starting with the best natural harbor on the entire Great Lakes. And Erie grew up because of that harbor and because of its location. Even today, we're the 5th state among shipping in all 50 states, and we're the only state with a seaport, a lake port, and a river port. Pennsylvania's unique that way. So we do have a lot of the pieces of already in place, like Kathy said.
I'm not sure, but did you also say that it includes Presque Isle Bay?
The waters of Presque Isle Bay are also in the application that we would like those to be included. I know there has been a little bit of concern in the community about that, and the thing is, this is the process. This is just the application, and we put forward what we're asking to NOAA. Within 60 days, we will know if we are accepted into the inventory. Once we are accepted into the inventory, which I very much think will happen, then it would be up to NOAA to decide which one of those in the inventory they want to pursue for an actual designation. if they say, yes, you know, Pennsylvania is Lake Erie waters are what we want to go forward and pursue, it would be a 2 to 3 year process where NOAA would come in and have numerous public meetings. They would talk to all of the parties that would have an interest in this and a concern about this, and then we would work out the details and the differences and address all the concerns that people might have about fishing, boating, diving, recreational uses. Commercial uses.
There's a discussion as of late that people from Canada are going to run a power line across. It's going to come ashore Albion?
Out in the West County area.
Yeah, West County. And people are saying, well, see, you can't do that because you won't be able to. But I've heard that that's not true. That
is absolutely not true. When you look at, again, going back to Thunder Bay and the regulations, if that power line was going to come right through, or if they came along and they found a shipwreck, then they would have to just take it around the shipwreck.
Okay.
The same if anyone wanted to put offshore wind turbines out there, if there was if that happened.
Okay.
Again, they could not put that on top of a shipwreck, but they could put it off to the left, to the right of that shipwreck. So as long as you're not damaging the shipwreck, you can all the other uses really are already governed under the state. Here locally, we don't have any jurisdiction once we get out into the waters, and there's a lot of state regulations already around.
Well, the state is
uses.
the mothership.
Yes, the state is the mothership.
Yeah. You're going to be around to watch this happen. What do you foresee yourself doing with the Bayfront Maritime Center? How would you participate in this?
We have a lot of students there, and we'll involve our students in every step of the process. Right now, we're building a schooner from the War of 1812, and that'll be a good platform to take students out or researchers out and do some side scan sonar research and looking for additional shipwrecks. It'll support a crew of scientists and researchers and the crew of the boat and some students to observe, and it'll be a perfect platform when the lake lays down and is calm for 2 or 3 or 4 days in a row. It'll be a great platform for doing that.
You say you're building a ship just like you're going to the store and getting a pound of ground beef. Tell us about the ship.
We're currently building the gunboat schooner Porcupine from Perry's fleet from the Battle of Lake Erie in the War of 1812.
Wow.
And we started with a donated hull, a 40-foot hull. It'll be just under 43 feet, and it's a fiberglass hull with, and the core is high density closed-cell marine foam. So it's a sustainable hull, and it won't be leaking and need extensive repairs. It'll look like a wooden vessel. It'll be flat black and yellow like all the 1812 boats, but it'll be the school ship for Presque Isle Bay. And this is, it'll fit in perfectly with this underwater sanctuary initiative to take people out to experience it firsthand from the water.
There's a huge interest in people in sailing in water. It is so much part of our DNA. Do you invite visitors to your place and say, here's what we're doing, or is it a kind of closed shop for now?
Every day. And when people walk in the door, they say, oh, I had no idea. And so it's very important for us to get people in the door of the Bayfront Maritime Center to see the students in class, to see the projects in the boat shop, and to see what we're doing. We've built 92 boats since 1998. Canoes, skiffs, wherries, dories, kayaks. The Erie boat, the historic fishing boat from when Erie was the freshwater fishing capital of the world, 1880 to 1915. And that's now a floating classroom, as the schooner Porcupine will be a floating classroom.
You are located where? The Bayfront Maritime Center is located?
40 Holland Street. We're on Holland Street behind Blasco Library, just north of Blasco Library on Holland Street.
No admission charge, come in free, say hi.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
You know, I think if you haven't been Rich's center, it's just amazing to go in there and to watch these young people and the excitement that they find from this. And actually, education is the thing that really sold me on the Marine Sanctuary. When I went up to Alpena and I saw the young people, and they were using remote operated vehicles, what they call ROVs, and they started in this from kindergarten on in the school systems up there.
Wow.
NOAA has given their expertise to the school systems up there, not only in the county of Alpena, but really far-reaching in Michigan. And the schools have seen just a great opportunity for their students to have technology and expertise above and beyond what the school district could normally bring in because of NOAA's relationship in that community. And when they came, NOAA came to our community and started looking around, one of the places that they mentioned was Rich's Center, and that the Bayfront Maritime Center was already doing some of the work that they love to get involved with. And so I think it's going to be a huge enhancement to Rich, as well as all of our school districts in our region, and then even into the college level, because there's been great things going on up in Alpena with the students in their community college and their other universities and colleges around there. And then those students take that technology that they've been learning since they were young students, because they've been doing this for almost 20 years up there in Alpena. And those young people were getting great jobs, great jobs around the world, honestly. And even here at Don John Shipping, they need people who can use those ROVs, go down, help to fix ships, you know. And so there's all sorts of spin-offs that from the education piece that are going to be, I think, beyond even what we can imagine at this point.
We have friends that live in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, and the lake is, trying to find a good word. You don't touch the lake. The lake is everything to them. It is their drinking water. It is their tourist industry supreme. I know that when we have friends who, when they go to put a boat in the water off a trailer, there's a person stopping and saying, if you have zebra mussels on this, you are not putting it in the lake. And they check it carefully. And the lake is just preserved. It is everything to them. I see that happening to us. Our lake is our blue gold. I mean, we want to preserve this. We do not want this disturbed. You have Presque Isle, 4 million visitors a year show up for free, and now we're going to add the component of something that is beyond what is going on just there through you and through you. I see this as win, 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 win. People who are perhaps not yet born will benefit from this and will learn from this and will develop from this. I'm just making notes here. We have Presque Isle State Park, which is a natural. You got the Tom Ridge Education Center, you got the Maritime Museum, you got the Brig Niagara, you got Dobbins Landing, you have Presque Isle Lighthouse, which we visited just a little while ago, and going east, the benefits of the lake are the vineyards of Northeast and the waters and the cooling waters and what that brings to that whole class of economic development out there. So the marine sanctuary, I believe, is going to be happening, and you say a couple of years though, right?
Right.
Yeah, a couple of years.
I think the exciting part immediately will be we will put the application in by the end of September, and within 60 days we will know whether we're in the inventory. So we'll know whether we've made that first hurdle. If we get past that first hurdle, then hopefully NOAA will be moving fairly quickly because this is a new process. Again, it's only been open for a year. Right now they have 2 areas that are in the inventory. One is in Lake Michigan. It's a Wisconsin application. Governor Walker actually put forward that application for the waters of Wisconsin, and again around shipwrecks. And then there's another one in the Chesapeake Bay area. So hopefully we will be the 3rd in the inventory, and hopefully NOAA will move forward with our application.
Is there any money associated with this?
There is no local or state match, which was actually magic to my ears. when I heard that, I thought, okay, this is something we should pursue. But what's NOAA looking for? They're looking for partnerships, and that's where Rich and others have come on board and say, we can partner with NOAA. And you know, can we lend them some of our ships and boats that we have here? Can we give them office space? Can we work together with them on some other initiatives that they have? And that's what NOAA wants, is to know that they're going to come into a community that wants them, that wants to partner with them, that take the resources of NOAA, our local or state resources, and make that resource grow, build that pie, as they say. Yes,
you were going to say something.
No, well, all the pieces in place are in place here. It's sort of a no-brainer.
Yeah, we're hoping that this goes through. As you drive along the bayfront, just as an example, you see marina. I can't believe that those people who have all those boats there can't be going, God, this is incredible. You know, I could be a part of this. I can be a part of changing this and be a part of history. Boaters are pretty good about making sure the water is kept clean. You know, I mean, they don't have to spoil it. And yeah, you got the hot dogs occasionally that race up and down the bay to see how fast they can go, but those are the exceptions. So again, in the middle is Mrs. Kathy Dahlkemper. She is the Erie County Executive, and to her right, your left, is Rich Eisenberg. He is the Executive Director and one of the founders, or the founder.
One of 2 founders.
One of 2 founders of the Bayfront Maritime Center, located at where?
40 Holland Street, right behind Blasco Library on Holland Street. Yeah,
if you've never been there, please, 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 please go. And we're talking about something which, knock on some plywood here, we believe is going to be coming to Erie, and it is a marine sanctuary promoting Erie's Great Lakes and everything that's attuned to. We've got about a couple of minutes left. Please add anything you hadn't or repeat what you've said because it's worth repeating.
Well, I think with the water being our really greatest resource, we all know that. Without the waters of Lake Erie, we are any other city anywhere.
Sure.
But we are special because of the waters, and so how can we protect those waters? How can we protect the resources, the cultural heritage from those waters, and make that come alive, you know, in our schools, in our recreation, and just in our promotion of this region. And that's what this National Marine Sanctuary, it's called the Lake Erie Quadrangle National Marine Sanctuary, and the Quadrangle is the area where we see all of these great concentration of shipwrecks here in Lake Erie. So check out the website, Lake Erie National Marine Sanctuary website, and like us on Facebook.
To me, the fascinating thing is how'd these ships go down? Who's on them? What were they carrying? What happened to them? I mean, there's so many questions to be. There's about 200 movies that should be made regarding this. You know, is there anything worth value down there?
The wrecks are a snapshot in history because they went down and they're the same. They've maybe decayed a little bit or caved in a little bit or been covered up by the bottom a little bit, but that they lay there just like when they touched bottom in 1850 or 1810 or whenever.
Why isn't the water rotted everything away? Is it too cold?
Well, different reasons. Partly because the lack of air down there, and partly because it's a little bit colder down there, and they are disappearing. Some of the lakes, some of the shipwrecks on the bottom of the lake, which is another reason to protect them. The ice is one of the things that, as the ice moves around, it can drag over wrecks and ruin things.
Really? Okay, interesting.
But I do think it's important to note that a wreck in the ocean deteriorates much faster, and that is one of the great things about the Great Lakes. The fresh water without the salt, you know, and the coldness, of course, of the Great Lakes tends to be better for the ships being preserved. When you go into the ocean, they really don't have the quality of shipwrecks that we have in the Great Lakes.
Rich Eisenberg, Kathy Dahlkemper, thank you for joining us today. Keep your ears, your eyes open, because shortly this is going to happen. It's going to be a marine sanctuary right in our own backyard. Thanks for joining us. I'm Phil Fatica. Until next time, take care.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.